Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the weekly chapter summary series. And today we shall be discussing the chapter summary for chapter number 15. The title of chapter number 15 is Yoga of the Supreme. In the previous chapter, chapter number 14, we learnt about the three modes of material nature last week. And we concluded that we don't really have to just reach till the mode of goodness, but we have to go beyond the three modes of material nature, even beyond the mode of goodness, right? And in today's chapter, Krishna takes this talk further. The um, i- unlike other chapters, okay, in most of the chapters, the chapter starts where Arjuna asks a question, but in this one there is no question. Krishna is continuing his talk further, and he is going more into detail in continuation from chapter 14. So that is why today's acronym is talks. TALKS. Okay. T stands for tree, A stands for abode, L living entity, K Krishna's glories, S supreme personality of Godhead. So for those who are taking notes, T stands for tree, A for abode, L for living entity, K for Krishna's glories, and S supreme personality of Godhead. So let's deep dive into each one of these. So, the beginning of the chapter, starting four verses, verse number 1 to 4, 15.1 to 15.4. These four verses are describing a tree. Let's see what is the description of this tree. Urdhva moolam adha shakham. Okay, Urdhva moolam. So, the description of the tree is like Urdhva as in ulta, upside down. Moolam, mool means root. Okay, so the roots of this tree are going upwards. Normally, generally in all trees, the roots are going downwards, but here the roots are going upwards. That's why it's Urdhva, upside down. So, this tree is basically a banyan tree. Okay, an imperishable banyan tree, and it has its roots upward. Shakha means branches, and its branches are down. And the leaves are like the Vedic hymns. And Krishna is saying, one who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Now, what are we talking about? A tree which is upside down, roots upward, branch downwards, and just by knowing this tree, you can know the entire Vedas. समझ में नहीं आया? Okay, let's understand. So this is an analogy basically. And Krishna is also saying that the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in the world. Now let's decode this tree. Okay. Where do you actually see a tree which is upside down? Can you think about a place where you must have seen any tree which is upside down, which has its root upwards and branches downwards? If you think, then you will remember that you have seen this kind of upside down tree by a lake or a river in the reflection in that particular water body, right? So normally it's not a real tree, it's just the reflection of a tree in a water body which is upside down. So, just like this reflection of a tree, the material world is compared to this upside down tree. Why? Because the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. Reflection is illusory, we know. Reflection isn't the true thing. It isn't the real thing. It is only an illusion. Like example, every morning when we have to wear our tilak, okay? So we see the reflection in the mirror and then put the tilak on our real body. We cannot put the tilak on the mirror, okay? On that reflection, okay? I will see, okay, here is the face, let me put the tilak. So the tilak will not, I will not be able to wear the tilak by putting it on the reflection. I need to put it on my body. The reflection is just an illusion. So just similarly, so we can't be really happy in the material world. It is just illusory happiness. Why? We had discussed this in the previous chapters also, that the happiness, the so called happiness in the material world, A, is limited, B, it is temporary, short lived, and C, even if it is long lived, it comes with a dual package, combo package, that anything that gives you happiness will have some kind of side effects, right? And we discussed this in detail with examples in the previous chapter. And my favorite example of comparing this illusory happiness of the material world is of this person whose face is held very tightly in front of a bucket of water, and then the face is completely submerged in that bucket of water, and then this person is gasping for breath, and when he's almost about to become breathless, so he just the face is released, and then he's just allowed to take a few breaths, and then again after a few breaths again the face is drowned in the water, and so on and so forth. So it continues, and when that face is released and he takes that few breaths, is that what is called as happiness? No, that's not happiness. It's just a relief from his struggle, right? So this is how the happiness, the so-called happiness of the material world is. It's actually not happiness, but it is just a temporary relief from the struggles of the material world. The owner, the creator of this material world himself, the manufacturer himself has labeled this material world as Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. Dukkhalaya means a place of miseries. Ashashvat means that is temporary, not permanent. So it just promises you happiness, but it never delivers it. So the real happiness is elsewhere. This is just a reflection, just like the tree's reflection. So this is just a reflection of happiness. There's no real happiness here. So where is the real happiness? It comes the question. So the real happiness is in Krishna's abode. So that is why the next thing is after the tree, T, A stands for abode. So abode, the next two verses, Krishna talks about the qualities of his abode. Actually, in one verse, he talks about the qualities of his abode, and in one verse, he talks about the qualifications of somebody who wants to go to that abode. So actually, in the entire Bhagavad Gita, this is the only verse where Krishna is talking about his dham, his abode, his house. Okay. Of course, in Bhagavatam there is, but in the entire Bhagavad Gita, this is the one. So let's get a sneak peek into Krishna's house. Okay. So Krishna is saying that that supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or the moon, nor by fire or electricity, and those who reach that abode never return to this material world, meaning one way ticket. So let's understand this by a story. So once Narad Muni uh, went down to the material world, and then there were some people who had gathered at one place, and Narad Muni addressed them and asked, um, does anyone wants to go back to the Lord, back to Krishna's abode? I can take you right away in an instant. Of course, Narad Muni is capable, is empowered to do that. And then everybody said, no, no, I don't want to go. I have things to finish here. I cannot go with you right away in an instant. I have things to finish this, that. So there was one person, Narad Muni was very disappointed. Nobody wants to go. Nobody has a desire to go back to the Lord. But there was one person who said, yes, Narad Muni, take me along. I want to go with you. Narad Muni said, amazing, let's go. At least one person has a desire to go back home, back to Godhead. Let's go. So he said, okay, but when will we come back? How long will it take? So Narad Muni said, no, no, no. Once you go there, you cannot come back. It's a one-way route. So that guy said, no, no, then in that case, I don't want to come. I just thought that I was free for a few hours. You'll take me along for a ride. We'll see what it is and we'll come back. So this is how the situation in the material world is. We actually don't have a desire to go back to the Lord's abode. Okay. First thing is we need to create that desire. And not just the desire. What we also need to have the qualifications. How to develop this desire is only when we keep hearing and associating with those who have a desire to go back, will we be able to. Every week after week, we are coming in together in this association and discussing so that and hearing all these topics so that we ourselves can have and create and nourish this desire to go back. Now, after the desire, what are the qualifications? So, just like when we go to any country, before going there, we need to fill in the visa application form. Then there'll be a checklist of certain qualifications. Okay. So, similarly, in order to go back to Krishna, with a one-way ticket. Krishna is mentioning what qualifications, that who can go back. So he's saying these are the qualifications. He's saying those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association. So first qualification is free from false prestige, illusion, and false association. Those who understand the eternal, those who understand that there is a temporary world, there's an eternal world. Those who are done with material lust, they have been fully convinced, yahan mere liye kuch nahi hai, there's nothing for me in this material world. Those who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, meaning the equanimous person, which we have been talking about since chapter 2. Those who are unbewildered and know how to surrender unto the Supreme, these are the qualifications. Such a person can attain to that eternal abode of Lord. Okay, so here we can see if we have these qualifications, and if not, how far are we to develop these? Visa milega ki nahi milega? Okay, moving on. So, in the next five shlokas, Krishna explains the struggles of a living entity in the material world. So, T, tree, A, abode, L is living entities. We are saying talks, TALKS, today's acronym. T stands for tree, A for abode, L, now living entities. So, this is the third one, L. Shloka number 7, 15.7 to 15.11. So here, the living entities, Krishna is saying that the living entities in the conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Okay. And due to the conditioned life, they are struggling very hard. Struggling with what? With six senses. Six senses, we heard the five. Okay. Which says, he says, which include the mind. So, mind is the main topmost of all these six senses, which means that we are completely part and parcel of Krishna. He's saying, my eternal fragmental parts. Fragmental, part and parcel. Okay, it means that we fully belong to Krishna. It's not just partially. Everything, my entire existence, everything I own, I call my own. Everything is actually Krishna's. An eternal fragmental part, which means that I'm not Krishna's for only a certain number of years or a certain number of lifetimes. I'm eternally Krishna's. Always, I have always been Krishna's and I'll always be Krishna's. Not like in the material world, sometimes we possess something and then it is I call it my own, and then later it is taken away or I give it away. Even be it even our family, our possessions, or whatever it be. Not like that. Eternal, fragmental parts. Okay. But because we forget that we are this eternal fragmental part of the Lord, we are struggling here with our senses, which includes the mind. So let me give an example. Imagine if there is this little boy, uh, let's say not little boy, but let's say he's just start to find some work. Okay, he's of that age where he's looking out for maintaining his living, but actually, his father is a billionaire. But he has forgotten his father. He has cut ties with his father and he goes out to find work and to maintain his living. Of course, he will struggle to make a living outside of his palace, right? All he needs to do is he needs to call back his father. He needs to remember that, oh, my father is a billionaire. He has a big palace. That is my home. And he needs to call his father and say, Dad, I want to come back. What's his father going to do? Hey, son, please come back. I'm waiting for you, right? We all need to do the same thing. Our loving father will accept us wholeheartedly because he is the one who's waiting, just like a one sided lover, more than us wanting to go back. He is wanting us to come back. And that is why he is giving such a deep talk in Bhagavad Gita. He's giving us these shastras, these sadhus who time and again keep reminding us that this is not our real home. There is a bigger home, which is and a happier home where we can go and with a one-way ticket, not to come back, not to struggle. Okay, so in these five verses, Krishna is explaining that that here in the material realm, a living entity, he hops from one body to another body. And what decides what body will he get? That is his desires. The desires that he cultivates in this particular lifetime will decide what kind of body he will get in his next lifetime. So at the time of death, though the subtle workings of through the subtle workings of incarnation, reincarnation, birth after birth, we know that it is just like we change our clothes every day. That is how at the end of this life we give up one body and assume another body. Now, what kind of body? The body which is tailor made to facilitate the desires that I cultivated in this particular lifetime. You know, the different life situations that come in this particular lifetime are meant to teach us one very simple lesson. What is it? That we are looking for happiness, but we are looking in the wrong places. Yeah, the right thing is happiness, but it's not where we can find, not in the material world. That's the wrong place. We know we need to go back to the happy home, Krishna's eternal abode. Then in the next four verses, verse number 12 to 15, 15.12 to 15.15, Krishna talks about himself, Krishna's glories. So T, tree, A, abode, L, living entities, K, Krishna's glories. So here, Krishna is telling us how he is the maintainer of this material world. We spoke about this material world being an illusion, okay? And then he's saying that he is only maintaining this material world. How he does that? He says that the splendor of the sun, moon, and fire comes from me. We know for a fact that without the sun, we cannot survive. This material world cannot survive, okay? So what's important? The sun is very important, and we need fire, okay? Which also, like the sun, the fire comes from the sun only. So we need heat basically to survive in this material world. So the sun, moon, and fire, everything comes from Krishna. And then Krishna says that I enter into each planet, and by my energy, these planets are floating in their orbits. Okay. Then he says, I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So the juice that is there in the fruits and vegetable comes because of the moon. And Krishna is saying he is the source of this moon. Then further he says, I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities. I join with air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuff. And finally, I am seated in everyone's heart. From me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So, these shlokas help us to remember Krishna more often. During the day, we see the sun and we remember Krishna. Okay, at night, we see the moon, we remember Krishna. When we think about the planets, astrology, we remember Krishna. When we eat a certain fruit or vegetable, it's a juicy or tasty one. What we immediately remember? Oh, this is from Krishna. Now, after eating, we need to digest that food. Then again, what we remember? Oh, fire of digestion is also Krishna. With every breath, incoming and outgoing air, he's saying that he is that life. So with every breath, actually, we can remember Krishna. And finally, he says that I am seated in everyone's heart. So each living entity, not just human beings, all the living entities, they are also part and parcel of Krishna. Every entity should remind us of Krishna. In spite of all this, and we have done this in the previous chapters also, this is not the only chapter where Krishna is telling us about these things, that I am this, I am that. But in spite of all this, and chapter after chapter, Krishna gives remembrance. But do we still remember him? Are we still Krishna conscious? Still, we have the question, how can we be Krishna conscious 24 by 7? Huh? Why? Because he says, from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So, even to remember him, we need him. It shows how dependent we are on him to exist on this planet, to eat, to digest, to breathe, and even to remember or forget something, we need his intervention. Is there anything that we can do without the intervention of the Lord? Can you guys take a minute and think about that something I can do without the intervention of Krishna? Do you think there's something? Maybe somebody if has any thoughts, maybe they want to write on the chat or unmute themselves or just take a minute and contemplate. Is there something? After reading this, I was actually thinking, is there anything that we can do without the intervention of the Lord? Or like we are completely, fully dependent on Him? Think about it. And if you come up with an answer, you think, yes, there is something. there is this particular thing I can do without the intervention of the Lord. Please let me know because I'm also looking for that answer. Well, I did get one answer when I was thinking about this. Is there something where you're not completely dependent on Krishna? Not completely dependent, maybe partially.
Well, can we
Sorry,
say that desires?
absolutely. Desire. That's the only one thing because Krishna has given us the free will. That is why Krishna doesn't intervene. And because of this desire, we are here in the material world. We had a desire to enjoy without him. Rather than being his servant, we wanted to be the proprietor, owner, so called. Now we understand so called. Yeah, so this is what we wanted to do, and that is why we are here. Because if everything happened with Krishna's intervention, why would he put us in this place of Dukhalaya Shashvatam where we are struggling day in and day out, right? A billionaire's son wouldn't put his son in a place of struggle, right? Only by his desire can he decide to forget and go, right? And in order to fulfill our desire of being that proprietor and enjoyer, of course, so called now we know Krishna gives us the forgetfulness also. How merciful is He that, okay, He wants to enjoy without me. He wants to forget me. Okay, He gives the forgetfulness, but not from a place of hatred or envy or anger. Okay, you want to be without me? Go, forget me. I'll give you the forget. Not like that. He gives us the forgetfulness, but He's still waiting for us to come back to Him. That is how merciful He is, right? He's creating, he's arranging, even in he's fulfilling our desires. He's giving all the facilities for us to consider ourselves as this owner and enjoyer. But in that arrangement also, he's sending the devotees, he's sending the sadhus, he's sending the shastras, some YouTube link, some Instagram reel which will remind you of that happy home so that you can go back to him, right? That is how merciful he is, and he's really waiting for us just one time to turn back and say, Krishna, I'm all yours. Take me back home. Yeah. So moving on, and to conclude this chapter, Krishna says that Supreme Personality of Godhead. T stands for tree, A stands for abode, L living entities, K Krishna's glories, and S Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shlok number 16 to 20, which is 15.16 to 15.20. Here, Krishna is explaining that there are two classes of living entities: fallible, Kshara, and infallible, Akshara. Okay, Shara and Akshara, fallible and infallible. So, in the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. But Krishna is saying above, beyond these two categories of living entities, the fallible and infallible, Kshara and Akshara, okay, there is a third one. It's not a category, but there is a third person who's beyond all of this, who's neither in the category of Shara and nor in the category of Akshara, which is Krishna himself. Okay, he is the greatest living personality, the supreme soul, the imperishable Lord himself, and he has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. So the fallible living entity, Shara, have dropped into this tree of material existence, this illusory tree that we are talking about. Why? Because we discussed because of this independent desire to enjoy. And then these are different from the infallible living entities, the Akshara, who never leave the spiritual world. Now, why they don't leave the spiritual world? Because of their undeviated desire to be with the Lord, to always serve the Lord. So we see that what marks the line of demarcation between Shara to Akshara or Akshara to Shara is what? This independent desire to enjoy without Krishna, not to be a servant, but trying to be a master. Of course, just trying, a frustrated attempt. Yeah. So to conclude, Krishna says that whoever knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead without doubting, very important words, without doubting is the knower of everything. So the person who knows Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead is not the knower of everything. The person who knows that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. And Suppose who is fully convinced that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. What do you think this person would do? After having full conviction, no doubts that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, somebody who knows this, what would he do? Of course, he would engage in devotional service to Krishna, right? So that is what Krishna is saying here. And Krishna beautifully ends the chapter with the last verse where he says that this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scripture. Whoever understands this will become wise and his endeavors will know perfection, right? So that is why, because some people want to achieve perfection in their endeavors. So, what they do is they try to memorize all the verses of this entire 15th chapter, especially in the Adhik Maas, which comes every 4 years, I think. What they do is we chant the entire 15th chapter every day. So you will see that even if people don't know the Bhagavad Gita, they will at least know the verses, the Sanskrit verses of this 15th chapter. So that was the beautiful, short 15th chapter, the most confidential knowledge of the Veda. Hare Krishna. If anybody has questions or comments, please feel free to unmute yourself. Thank you for your time and energy. Hare Krishna.